Good morning. I'm Bea Cupid and welcome to Rappler Talk. On February 21, a House panel approved a proposed measure that would introduce divorce in the Philippines. It's historic. It's the farthest a divorce bill has gone in the legislative process, and the bill is also a product of a multi-partisan effort in the House that's dominated by a Duterte-allied supermajority. But in the predominantly Catholic Philippines, the last country in the world aside from the Vatican that does not allow divorce, what are the chances of this proposed law? Joining us today is one of its champions in the House, Albay Representative Edsa Lagman. He headed the TWG for the proposed legislation. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Bea. Thank you for this opportunity to further expound on this bill.
So, sir, maybe a basic question. Why do we need a divorce law in the Philippines?
Well, first of all, you have already said it, Bea, that all countries, whether Catholic, Christian, Muslim, communist, or socialist, they all have their own divorce law, except the Philippines and the Vatican. So that means to say worldwide, there's really a need for a law to give spouses who are in irremediably broken or lost marriages to have a second chance at marital bliss without in any way not protecting the interests of children. As a matter of fact, children are once agonizing in pain and stress because of the constant conflict of their parents in a broken home. So a divorce decree would also liberate the children from such stress and agony. And the studies abroad, particularly in the United States and Canada, would indicate that children of divorced parents are more capable of facing life better than those who stay in broken families.
Broken families that aren't legally separate. I mean, the spouses aren't legally separated.
Yeah, broken families where the spouses
Are at war.
are at war, constantly at war.
Right.
So those are these factual circumstances by which we are championing the introduction of law on absolute divorce and dissolution of marriage, which is a sequel to the reproductive health and responsible parenthood law. These are sister measures where the woman is the central figure, so to speak, because these are both pro-woman legislations. In the case of the reproductive health law, the woman is given that right, or her inherent right is recognized to freely determine the number and spacing of her children, and also to moderate or even prevent maternal mortality. In the case of the divorce bill, it gives the distressed or battered wife the opportunity to be liberated from a broken marriage, and also helps her regain her dignity and self-respect.
So I think it's very clear, you know, that divorce, I mean, in the bill itself, there's heavy emphasis on its protection of women who are battered, children who are harmed in the context of a marriage. But I mean, a lot of critics, well, a lot of members of the House who are opposed to the divorce bill, what they always raise is it endangers the Filipino family. It makes it easier for a family to break up. But that's the normal, I mean, that's the usual argument against the law. What would you say to this?
Divorce is an exception for marriages which are irremediably lost or broken. But while we introduce divorce and dissolution of marriage, the state continues to protect and preserve marriage as a social institution and as a foundation of the family.
Yes.
The bill would give us several provisions which would assure that commitment of the state. One, in the guiding principles, it says there that the state shall conduct programs and activities of pre-nuptial and post-matrimonial situations so that it will strengthen the family and marriage. Number two, there is also a mandatory cooling off period of 6 months.
You can't just rush your divorce.
You file a divorce, the court will not start the proceedings until an expiration of 6 months, wherein there is a final attempt to reconcile the parties, except in summary proceedings. Then also there is the provision that the public attorney's office or the public prosecutor's office is authorized, mandated, and obligated to conduct investigations to find out whether there is collusion between the parties. Another undertaking which would underscore this commitment is that even if the parties already filed a divorce petition, or even after the court has already issued a divorce decree, if they would like to reconcile, then they are given that opportunity to reconcile by the court. So all of this would be preserving the matrimony, the marriage ties, the family life. But there are situations when everything is lost. Why do you have to let the couple and their children suffer in such situations? According to the Supreme Court in the case of Te versus Te, and I would like to paraphrase it, the nullification or the solution of a marriage would give the proper burial to the cadaver of a marriage.
Not just pretending that it never happened, or which annulment offers. Sir, just to go back to that program, what do you mean when you say programs to preserve yung pre-marital and
pre-nuptial? Well, there are already programs now, but we are trying to underscore that. That even before a couple could get a license to get married, they will have to undergo a seminar where professionals from the government sector or from the private sector can emphasize the concern of the state that marriage should be a sacred relationship na huwag ibaliwala ng mga mag-asawa. Then, after marriage, that should continue. They call that marriage encounter. So we are emphasizing that, and the state should support that. Or the state should even undertake the programs and activities.
So why is there that notion that divorce in itself would compromise the Filipino family, make it easier to...
It's a knee-jerk reaction.
I see.
Without looking at the factual basis.
That's true. Sir, I think one of the things that the champions of the divorce law have always emphasized is that they want the process to be cheap, or at least affordable for those who do want to take it, to avail of it, and they want it faster than the usual annulment process. Where did that need come from? Like from the consultations, or?
Well, during the consultation and hearings conducted by the Committee on Population and Family Relations, not only here, but even abroad, that was the claymore.
Right, right. So these are based on real life
In
experiences.
real life experiences from OFWs and from spouses here in the Philippines.
Right.
That the present annulment process is very expensive.
Yeah.
We were told it would approximate a minimum of 250,000 pesos.
That's the minimum amount.
A minimum
to
amount.
avail of it. Yeah.
Well, because of professional fees for
Yes,
lawyers,
that's right.
social workers, psychologists, and psychiatrists. So we said that under this proposal of ours,
Yeah.
it will be inexpensive, affordable, and efficient. That
Right.
means to say, could be expeditious.
Yes.
So that we could address the concern of these spouses who would like to get a legal divorce, or now it's annulment, but could not do so because of the expense involved. Now, so we have made a provision here. Previously, it was known as the indigent litigant,
Yes.
but I am proposing that it should be known as the court-assisted petitioner.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Because the term might be a little confusing.
Yes,
Indigent,
I
yeah.
have suggested it should be court-assisted petitioner, which would refer to petitioner or petitioners who do not have real properties or personal properties exceeding 5 million
5 million.
pesos as proposed by the speaker.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you are qualified under that provision on court-assisted petitioner, the court will waive the filing of filing fees and other costs of litigation. The court will appoint a counsel de officio
Yes.
from the integrated bar and other legal aid societies, and then the court will also assign social worker,
Right.
a psychologist, and a psychiatrist, preferably coming from a concerned government agency, parang cheap or libre.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kasi sir, usually these are the bigger expenses in annulments, right?
To assist not
Right.
only the petitioner or petitioners, but even the court.
I see. All right.
Okay. Then, with respect to expeditious process, we have introduced the concept of summary judicial proceedings, and there are 6 grounds wherein summary judicial proceedings can be availed of.
Yes.
What is meant by summary judicial proceeding? It is an expeditious process without much regard to technicalities.
Right.
The court can allow presentation of evidence ex parte in warranted circumstances.
Yeah.
And once the decree is issued, it is immediately final and executory.
Okay. If it's a summary proceeding, sir, how fast would the divorce, after the 6-month cooling off period?
Wala na.
Wala na.
Yung
Tama.
6-month calling off period will not apply to summary proceedings.
So
you
in
know.
theory, sir, if let's say I file for a divorce decree and then I'm like my situation falls under summary for a summary proceeding, how fast or how long will it take
Well,
in theory?
to my mind, considering that there is no more cooling off period, it will take most probably not more than a month.
Oh, that's okay.
For example, what are the grounds under summary proceedings? When one of the spouses committed bigamy.
Yes, okay.
All you have to present is the second marriage
Right.
contract
Right.
or a decision of a court
Right.
that that the spouse has been
yeah.
convicted for bigamy.
Right.
Now, with respect to another ground, imprisonment for 6 years. All you have to do is to present the conviction
Right.
wherein the spouse is adjudged guilty and imprisoned for a length of time of 6 years or even more. Now, with respect to separation in fact, then both spouses can petition
Right.
and really say that they have been
We've been,
separated
yeah.
for that long period of time.
5 years.
5
that's
years.
It, yeah.
So that will not be a long process. Another, when there is a joint petition of the spouses,
Okay.
and under any of the grounds.
Okay. So it's a mutual
Yeah,
decision
it's
between.
under any of the grounds provided for the dissolution of marriage. No other ground, but only the grounds provided for.
Yes.
Then, when the spouses had been separated legally by judicial decree
that's right.
for at least 2 years,
Yes.
wala naman na ano. All they have to do is to present the decision of the court
Right.
with respect to the decree on legal separation. So, madali ito.
Yeah.
To my mind, it will not take more than a month.
So I think that's one of the issues of the minority. They don't like the concept of a mutual mutual decision as one of the possibilities in availing for a divorce decree.
Well, there is a provision here
Yeah.
which says that a decree on absolute divorce or dissolution of the marriage should not be based on a stipulation of facts
Okay.
or a confession of judgment.
Okay.
So this would avoid what is known as a no contest divorce.
Oh, okay.
So
I see.
that fear is
I found it.
covered by
Okay.
this particular provision.
Okay, so now that the committee has approved the measure, we're going through the House, but how about in the Senate? What's the progress there?
Well, it's actually former Senator Pia Cayetano,
Okay.
now a member of the House, who is trying to arrange that filing of a counterpart measure in the Senate. I think she has talked to a number of senators already.
Right.
But the best source for any information on a Senate version will be the senators themselves.
Right, of course, because it's in their hands now.
Yeah.
Also. Sir, speaking of, it was emphasized yesterday after the hearing that you and now Representative Cayetano, you were also partners in pushing for the RH bill.
That's correct. That's
years
correct.
ago. How does it feel now? It's another it's another landmark legislation.
Yeah.
Kung sakali for a woman for women in the Philippines.
That's correct. Then, and that's why I said this bill on absolute divorce and dissolution of marriage is a sequel
Right.
of the reproductive health bill. Now, let me just emphasize this. If the reproductive health bill is fully implemented, then it would help prevent teenage pregnancies
That's right.
and hasty teenage
That's
marriages,
right. That's
which veritably would result to
Separation.
broken
Yeah.
relationship
That's
and broken marriages.
Right. Right.
So there is
It's a package. It's a
it's a
complete package.
Yeah, we are
Kumbaga.
completing the package.
Right, right. Sir, well, the RH, of course, I'm sure you still remember how difficult it was to pass it in the House, in the Senate, and until now, implementation is very difficult. What are the chances of a divorce law? You said earlier that you think it's going to be easier.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's going to be easier?
Well, because the people are receptive to this absolute divorce.
Right.
All surveys would show
Right.
that the respondents, majority of the respondents,
They're in favor of it.
would be in favor of a divorce law in the Philippines. And secondly, I think the Catholic Church
Yes.
is not as vehement in
This
its
time
opposition
around. Right.
compared to the reproductive health bill, where there were apprehensions that contraceptive products can lead to cancer,
Right.
etc.,
right,
etc.
right. Yeah.
In this case, there is no such argument,
But they're just arguing against supposedly it harms the Filipino. I mean, that's one of their biggest arguments.
Yeah, but as I've said,
You're ready to defend that.
that's correct. And in this divorce law is an exception.
Right.
It is not the general rule.
That's right.
The general rule is we have happy, vibrant marriages and family life.
Right.
And we are not going to destroy that.
Right. Right.
The studies in other countries, in Europe, for example, where they have introduced absolute divorce, would show that it did not open the floodgates to separation
which
and
they
divorce.
always, that's
Did
the
not.
scenario that
That's the date. Those are the statistics and data
Right.
in those countries having the divorce decree already.
But sir, where is this fear coming from? You know, the notion that once you introduce divorce, ang dami maghiwalay, ang dami magpa-file. Parang may mga ganong
I tell you,
scenarios.
this fear is not a collective fear of the Filipino people. This is a collective, this is only, these are isolated fears
Right.
of those who have anachronistic ideas.
That's a nice term for it, anachronistic ideas. So I think another interesting thing yesterday during the hearing was that all blocks from the House were represented, you know, championing the measure, which is kind of rare given how divided the House can be on a lot of issues. Why do you think, is it reflective, do you think, of public opinion on divorce?
You are absolutely correct, Bea.
Right.
It is reflective of the popularity of a divorce decree.
Right.
In other words, we are just reflecting the sentiments of our constituents.
That's right. Yeah. So we don't expect the heartaches and the headaches of 2012, 2013 back during the...
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And not only reflecting local constituents, but a global constituency.
Because consultations were held in OFW hubs all over the world, right? How big a factor is it also, sir, that Speaker Alvarez himself is a very, this is one of his pet bills. He really wants, the solution of marriage was his term, but it's,
a legislative proposal will have difficulty
right.
seeing the life of day
Right.
if the leadership is against it.
Right.
In the case of the reproductive health, when it was already it was in the process of being enacted, the House leadership was in favor of it.
Yes.
But the previous years, the House leadership was either against or ambivalent.
Yes.
In this particular case, it is a great factor that the Speaker of the House is in favor of the passage of this measure.
Yung Senate na lang tayo, sir, they haven't really consolidated, I guess, so their take on.
We have not received any serious articulation,
I know,
either pro or against the divorce bill in the Senate.
Timeline, sir, how fast will this pass the House, or how long will it take before it gets up to third reading, it's approved?
Well, first, we would like to have this go to the plenary.
Yes. By next week, I think. It's the earliest.
Well, according to the Speaker, by next week. But hopefully by next week or before the celebration of the International Day of Women. That's March 8th. But March 8th is a Thursday, so it could be maybe, March 7th or earlier. And the final timeline, to my mind, is that hopefully it could be enacted into law before the end of the 17th Congress. That's next year.
It gives you a year to work on it, and the Senate to work on it as well. Sir, maybe parting words to the critics, to those who support it, to those who are ambivalent or divided over the thought of divorce in the Philippines?
Well, first I would like to thank all of those legislators, as well as resource persons who contributed their inputs in the formulation of a consolidated or substitute bill. I truly realized how serious they were in the crafting of this bill. Now, to the critics, I hope they are open-minded and they would see the beneficent effects of this bill to the Filipino people.
And read the proposed legislation. I mean, I think you've covered their concerns. I would
the concerns are well covered.
Right.
And when they say that Philippine culture is not receptive to divorce. Let me just say that even before the Spaniards came,
Yeah.
our
Oo.
ancestors
Tama.
had their own
Right.
divorce laws.
Right. Right.
Then also, during the American period, we had a divorce law. During the Japanese time, we had a divorce law.
Right.
And now, we have granted Muslims
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
uh, the opportunity to avail of their customary divorce process.
So yun. Good luck, sir. Next, will you be defending the bill yourself
Well,
during
I was
plenary?
informed that I would
You're one of
defend
the-
the
okay.
bill, and I'm ready.
I can see, yeah. And if you read, again, if you read the bill, I think more or less the concerns of those who are against it are addressed and are considered in its crafting. So good luck, sir, next week.
Yes.
Ours and ours. I'm expecting a lot of questions from
Thank you.
those who
Thank
are
you,
against the
Bea,
bill.
for wishing us luck.
Yes, sir.
We need luck, but you also need skill.
That's true. So that was Representative Ed Salagman talking about the proposed divorce law. Next week, we expect the House plenary to be discussed before the House plenary. Thank you for joining us, sir. This is Bea Copin, and that was Rappler Talk.